Gbenga Sesan is a social entrepreneur and the executive director of Paradigm Initiative, a pan-African social enterprise working on digital inclusion and digital rights through its offices in several African countries, including Nigeria. Trained as an electronic and electrical engineer at the prestigious Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, he has completed executive education programs at Lagos Business School, New York Group for Technology Transfer, Oxford University, Harvard University, Stanford University, Santa Clara University, and University of the Pacific. He is a non-resident fellow at the Digital Civil Society Lab at Stanford University and a former member of the United Nations Committee of E-Leaders on Youth and ICT. Named Schwab Foundation Social Entrepreneur of the Year 2014, Gbenga Sesan is a Cyber Stewards Fellow, Crans Montana Forum Fellow, Archbishop Desmond Tutu Leadership Fellow, Ashoka Fellow, a Common Future Fellow, and Courts Fellow. In 2012, he was listed by CNN as one of the 10 leading African tech voices on Twitter and by Ventures Africa as one of the 40 African legends under 40. In the course of his career, Mr. Sesan has had the opportunity to consult for numerous institutions, including Microsoft, Harvard University, and United Nations agencies, among others. In 2006, he served as a member of the Presidential Committees on Harmonization of Information Technology, Telecommunications and Broadcasting sectors, and Roadmap for the Achievements of Accelerated Universal Broadband Infrastructure and Service Provision in 2013. He advised the World Health Organization on data privacy in the early days of the coronavirus pandemic in 2020 and is currently advising the World Economic Forum on its operationalizing trust project to develop rights respecting data policy for business.
We're Pan-African. We have offices in Zambia, Zimbabwe, Kenya, Cameroon, Senegal, and so we're focused on all of the regions on the continent, apart from North Africa. And Paradigm Initiative does two things. One is we make sure that we recreate the Gbenga Sesan story, which is basically get these young people who are at the bottom of the pyramid, these young people who are at a risk of not getting access to opportunities, take them through a 10-week intensive training program. And when they learn, their story changes. Great. Okay, so the story of how I got to even choose Ife is funny. My dad, I think, did a sandwich course in Ife and came home with a t-shirt and got me a t-shirt, University of Ife. And it used to be called University of Ife, eventually called Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. And I saw that t-shirt and that was it. I got to the campus, I had my admission letter, which interesting enough was sent to me while a few of my colleagues were talking about going to check their results. I got my admission letter. So I also wanted to go and see my name for myself. But by that time I had my admission letter. So my parents got me all packed up. I went to Ife. When we got to the campus gate, anyone who knows the Great Ife campus gate knows that when you get there, you have to take a bow, right? Like, what is this? For a child coming from St. Peter's Demonstration Primary School, Akure, and Federal Government College, Udo, and Normal Primary School, Akure, come on. That was a big deal for me. So I told the bus driver, I remember I took a bus from Akure, from Elisha Road to Ife, came down, took a bus to campus with all my 3 big bags with pots inside, amala and everything. I came prepared to campus. I'd heard a lot, of things about universities and things. And when I got to the gate, I said, stop. And they were all telling me, they were all trying to explain to me, this is not yet Ife. That Ife is far inside. I said, and I was thinking to myself, this one, you've not gone to any university before. That's why you don't know. This is Ife. This is a campus, I've arrived. So they helped me, alight and gave me my things. And I can't forget because it rained that day. And then the security guards at the gate were wondering what was going on. So they asked me, why are you stopping here? I said, I'm here, I'm resuming. I was ready to bring out my additional medal to show them. And then they told me that, this is the gate. From the gate, Where are you going? I said, Angola Hall. I said, Angola Hall, that's the end of the school. That from here, it is 1 kilometer to get to the first building. And I was confused. That was the first time in my life that I would go to a campus that was that huge. So you can imagine my shock. Campus life for me was, at first it was very scary because the first few people I met, in fact, on that, I think the Monday after I got to school, the first person I met and I was, Ife campus is beautiful. So when you arrive, you walk until you're almost there. I walked around and I got to this Oduduwa Hall, and this guy said, everybody knew I was a jambite as a fresh student, I was like, what course are you studying? I said electrical and electrical engineering. He looked at me and laughed. He said, White House will show you. And I asked him what he meant. He said, don't worry, when you fail, you will know. And for me, that was very scary. Why do you tell a new student that he's going to fail? And I noticed that a lot of people kept saying that you're doing mathematics, chemistry, you will fail, physics, you will fail. And that to me was very scary. Why on earth would you tell a new student? But I realized much later that was their own way of coping with their own failures. They had failed those subjects. And so they were telling everybody that, you too, you will fail. Interesting enough, I scored 87, and I can never forget because I waited to check. A period where we had a long holiday. So during Ife, there was always ASU strike, which was national, but apart from ASU strike, students are always, protesting. So the school will shut down. So this period, I think SANU, NASU, ASU, and students' protests came together, and it was almost one whole year. So I stayed back on campus. I sent a letter through my friend, Bayo Loto, to give to my dad. That's another story entirely. Tell him that I will stay back on campus because Ife had computers with internet access. I'd been denied access to computers in my third year in secondary school, so I was desperate to own computers. And the computer lab in Ife, you had to go there, sign your name, and then you had 30 minutes of access. So after a while, we discovered how to write Gbenga Sesan, Gbenga, Olabisi, the same, all of my names, arranged them anyhow, which was, unethical, but it was our only way of getting more than 30 minutes, to the computers. But guess what? There was now a time where there was nobody on campus. Everybody had gone home. I stayed back. It was almost a year. Myself, my friend Deolu, Ashaye, and Titi Akinsome, I remember we were in school for a very long time. And almost for 1 year, I stayed in the postgraduate hall at the time because most halls were empty. So I went to stay with a postgraduate student who, of course, wasn't going to go anywhere because he was doing his research. And every day, my schedule was simple. Wake up, go to the computer lab, and do everything. Open a tab, learn about everything. I mean, there was no Yahoo. I mean, there was no Google at the time, by the way. There was only Alta Vista or Yahoo Mail Search or Yahoo Search and things like that. And it was plug and play. You would type mail.yahoo.com, then you'll go and eat. By the time you come back, it will be open. You put your username and your password, you click sign in, then you'll go and pee. And when you come back, it will be open. And it was, but for me, that 1 year literally laid the foundation for what I do today. So one day, I was on the computer in the hallway, and then it started making noise, and I honestly didn't know what was going on. But I remembered Alt Control Delete was something that they had taught them in the advanced class. So I pressed it, and it kept quiet. And I felt like God. I was like, wow, I'm a genius. Only to stand up and turn around, and guess who was behind me? The owner of the computer center. I knew I was dead, but he just told me to come to his office and told me, you will not destroy my computers. Every weekend, I will train you myself so that you learn how to do these things. That's how I got free computer training. So when I got to campus, I needed to use it. And I guess that was very useful because by the time everybody came back to campus, by my 4th year again, I went for industrial training. And once I got back, I was organizing training programs for people. It was called WPD 2000. That was Web Page Design 2000. We had 16 students. They paid 2,000 naira each. First time in my life, I would earn anything like 32,000 naira. Not only did I was now able to afford a room to myself, 3 of us, myself, Ogendike, and Toplasho Remy, then got a whole room on the medical floor in Fajiri Hall to ourselves, which was, a different kind of life. We could afford, not to cook all the time. And I think that was my lesson to the fact that computers will change my life. Eventually led me to writing an essay, which got me my first fellowship, which I've been traveling for the first time, to writing to Philip Emegwali. I became the electronic club chairman in my department, and that meant I had ownership of computers. It literally meant I was in charge of all the computers, and that was good because I then organized an annual event where I invited people like Chris Uwaje, like Simi Sunny, who eventually became my first boss, to come and speak to us as students on campus. And then I invited Philip Emegwali, who at the time was the biggest Nigerian name anywhere. This was in 2000. And he responded that he couldn't come, but introduced me to Chris Uwaje, who then introduced me to the tech sector in Nigeria. And guess what? That laid the entire foundation for what I do today.
So when you look me, when they say donkey, I don't feel fast. If I fast, I will die. I like my food. I eat my food. My food likes me. Okay, first, may I tell you, if you no shop for 40 days, you no go die. Yes, you no go die. You feel see the younger brother of death too, but death himself, he no go come. Because our body fit survive without food. Water, na another matter. If you don't drink water for 7 days, bros, you go cross over.
So there were two key competitions that laid the foundation for my career, and both of them, I got access to them as a student in Ife. The first one was the International Telecoms Union Youth Fellowship, which, I was in my room when, a guy called Kayode Ayodele, aka Keza, who is now I think it's Dr. Kayode Ayodele is a lecturer, on OU campus now, and his friend Isaac Inyang came to me and said, "Oh, Gbenga, Prof wants to see you." And that was Professor Gabriel Ajayi, who everybody knew was the big UN man, right? He was a big man. We didn't really see him in class a lot. Apparently, in class, he had told them, "I need any young person who can write about youth and ICT opportunities in Nigeria." And they didn't even tell me that Prof is looking for someone that can write about it. But everyone on campus already knew at that time I was Mr. Youth, ICT, and Nigeria. So they just came to tell me. And I had one already written. So I took it to Prof. Prof saw it. He's a prof. Profs don't accept your first piece. He rejected it and said, "Go and develop it." I took it back, developed it, brought it to him and said, "Yes, this is it." And then he put him, sent it to the ITU. And I got the fellowship, went to South Africa, November 2002, my first trip ever, but also a major one because it introduced me to the world of United Nations, which formed a major part of my career until now. But the second one, that was sort of international facing. The second one, which has played a bigger role in my career, is the one that was national. So a friend of mine, Tunji Yola, called me and mentioned that he saw this advert in The Guardian of what was called the most promising web developer competition, which was organized by Cyber School, pronounced Cyber School because it was SCHUUL, like the German pronunciation, Cyber School. And so I saw the contest. And of course, I was ready. I had spent 1 whole year on campus learning how to design websites. I was already making money. By the way, I was, turning yearbooks into year CDs. We had become the big, boys of campus making year CDs for fellowships, for departments. So it kind of knew that this was my thing. And so I put in for the competition, and to cut the long story short, I won. I became Nigeria's IT Youth Ambassador in 2001. And what made it a big deal for me was that on the day of the contest, I remember there was a strike action by the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC. So events went holding on that day, but they chose to go ahead with the event. And I was very worried that the special guest I had requested for, Wole Soyinka, who had read a lot about him. My dad studied English and literature, so Wole Soyinka was always in all of our, he was all over the library shelf. And I'd acted in Trials of Brother Jero when I was in primary school. And so I wanted, to see him if it was possible. And so it was a surprise for me when I got there and I saw Wole Soyinka was the one who handed me my plaque as Nigeria's IT ambassador and said very many nice things about me. Gbenga whips our flagging energies, rejuvenates us, and I was like, is it me that Wole Soyinka is talking about like this? So it was a big deal. One of the advantages of being IT Youth Ambassador for Nigeria was that Sabah School then sponsored me to go across Nigeria to train young people on how to use computers. So definitely, if I could rewind time, I would travel much faster. Now I know the secret travel. Travel is not about money. I barely pay for my trips. Well, before COVID happened, I was a frequent flyer, traveled a lot, a whole lot, maybe even too much. And I literally paid for none of them, almost none of them, because these were trips paid for because people wanted me to come and speak at the event, and they paid for the trip because I had something in exchange. Knowledge in exchange for facilitating my trip, and at times even paying me for it. And so I know that now. So if I rewind time, I wouldn't have to worry about where do I find it. Because I know people think, oh, where do I find the money to travel? Is there something you have that people will pay for you to come and see them? And in the absence of travel, no thanks to COVID-19, I would say that reading, connecting with people virtually are things that come kind of close to that right now. Number one, be deliberate. Number two, find out what you need to get where you want to go and work towards it. But number three, don't waste your time camping around what you can't do. Look for people. There are two categories of people you will meet as a young person on campus. You will meet those who are anywhere belle-faced, group of let's all fail together. You can be friends with them, but that's where it ends. Just, hi, hey, shagalulu. But there's a second group of people who somehow, when you say, I want to be this, they don't discourage you. They may not understand it, but they sort of are also going in that direction. They have an idea where they're going. Now that group, stay close to them. I used to know this, and I could check on my app right now and know exactly how many, but I think the last I remember was 56. I don't know, maybe 56. I can check to confirm, but I think it was around 56. I know it was getting close to 60, and then I remember it was 58 because it was going to become 60 in 2020 because I was going to 2 new countries that I wasn't repeating, and then Corona struck. So I remember now I got stuck at 58. There was a time when I traveled a lot, that one of the reasons why I wanted to travel was so that I could go to, I knew I was going to a location and a globally premiered movie was premiering somewhere. I want to go to that country, so I watch it before anyone else. So I love movies. Thanks to virtual video on demand platforms now, you can watch anything at any time and things like that. So I'm increasingly loving TV series a lot more than feature length movies, but I do that definitely to relax when I am not the donkey that 2, 3 and 6-year-old children are climbing. I have to play donkey and horse a lot, so that's also fun. because I love it when one says, it's my turn, and things like that. It's a very confusing time in the world right now, and it's tempting for you to just give up and say, I'll take whatever comes. But the best time to prepare for war is when there is peace. How much more when there is war? When you have to stay alert and plan your time and use the best tools. One of the things that I've learned in these confusing times is that being focused and being deliberate is actually something that sets you apart and gets you access to a lot of opportunities. Yes, things are confusing. Yes, things are not so certain, but keep your focus, keep your plans up, and live deliberately on your own terms.